And welcome to the Grace Hour Show, Christian podcast that's coming to you from Greater Grace Church in Baltimore. And we have a guest with us today, Brad Hambrick, who is what is your official title?
Pastor of Counseling, Summit Church, Durham, North Carolina. I also get to serve as Assistant Professor of Biblical Counseling at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary.
So Brad has been with us. This is a live. This isn't a live show, is it? I'm sorry. It is being recorded, but Brad has been with us here since Sunday. This is your second time in Baltimore with us at our church, and we're talking, particularly counseling issues, and we're talking about, really how helping somebody to form a healthy self-image or identity after they've gone through a traumatic experience, after trauma. And I guess that's, PTSD is a term there. It's one of the alphabet things that people throw around. And going from victim, as you said, to like steward is the way that you're talking about the process. And I'm just wondering how you would like to set up our conversation, just like, given what I just said, how it's like to set up that conversation.
It's one of those where I think there is, if you will, a developmental process.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes as Christians, as pastors, we think about what is the ideal, what is the end goal? Mm-hmm. Like, where do we want people to be? And that becomes almost a distraction from how do we get there? And so in thinking about somebody who's in the aftermath of a traumatic experience, maybe particularly one that is at the hands of another person. Sometimes we go through trauma and there's no oppressor. Like you can go through an earthquake or a national disaster and there's not a person there, but in an abusive relationship or something like that where you very legitimately start as a victim. Mm. And that is too often a pejorative term. They're just playing the victim. And one, playing implies facade. It also oftentimes implies passivity. Like they're just not doing what they ought to be doing. But if I was stabbed, I am the victim of a stabbing. Yeah. I need medical care. I probably need law enforcement to come do an assessment of the situation. And in that situation, it is appropriate and non-pejorative that as long as I am in active harm's way, to say that first phase of the traumatic experience is I am a victim in need of safety and protection.
Mm. Yeah, when you say that, I think we all have heard that word bandied about like it's the cultural element. And I'm interested in your take on this. The cultural element, people who are more hardcore, more to pull up their bootstrap kind of person would say, label somebody a snowflake. Like you're saying passive, they're like more like a snowflake. And how much do you think just the dynamic of social media, the fact that if something does happen to you, people post what they're eating, look at what I'm eating right now. And they have a running commentary on the restaurants they visit and everything like that. Do you think the social media facilitates or, maybe that's the wrong word. That's a good word. Maybe fuels like sort of these kinds of emotional feelings because they get an audience so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think social media plays into many things. Yeah. And one factor that occurs to me is relevant to this discussion. Social media depersonalizes.
Okay.
So if somebody's talking about a significant hardship that they've been through, I'd like to put the polite caution out there of if you're going through something traumatic, social media is probably not the place to look for support.
Yeah.
Because you have strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And these, you're not a real human being to them. They are responding to this issue and whatever perspective and other people that they've heard talk about it. And one of the things that social media does is it really depersonalizes experience. So again, if we take the example I had of being stabbed, well, the person who's commenting on social media goes, I was stabbed 7 years ago and I'm fine now. I've healed completely. You're going to be all right. Well, they're not speaking to the phase that you're in. If you just got stabbed in the hospital, prayers appreciated, like text your friends that, as opposed to posting that on social media if we're doing the social media talk. But the depersonalization that happens when people who don't know us are commenting on what we're going through, it really robs interactions of empathy because there's not real human beings interacting. It's representative figures on a representative subject.
Yeah. Now, what should be our approach? Like when we, when you're saying empathy, when you recognize someone has been traumatized, and we recognize maybe the initial damage, but every case is different. I'm assuming, obviously, every case is different. How many giant steps should like a person step back before they like sort of demand like sort of a step forward from somebody else? You know what I'm saying? You think you know what I'm trying to ask there? Like what's a good what are good things to sort of say when you're trying to draw somebody into the next step, which is like, I guess, coming from victimhood to survivorhood. What's
Well, I think that transition from victim to survivor, it often happens more than it is done. And so if we're trying to say what distinction is being made, that victim, it means I am in active harm's way. So again, I've created the example of being stabbed.
Yeah.
That when I am still bleeding, when I need medical care, the time period of that experience where I need to receive care because I'm in active danger, that's victim. Now, I can be released from the hospital and I'm still recovering, but I'm not in active harm's way. That's survivor. And in that phase, that's a time period of recovery. So in the victim phase, there's nothing pejorative in saying I am receiving care more than I am doing something. In the survivor phase, I'm not yet caring for other people. Like it's not the primary responsibility that's on me. I'm not yet asking the question, what's God going to do with this? And how many ways can I take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it around for good? I'm recovering. And so that may be cooperating with good medical care. Like actively participating in that. There may be some, again, if it's a physical recovery because muscle tissue was damaged, there may be some physical therapy that I need to do. Those are things that I may not be able to lift more than a gallon of milk. Like there may still be some limitations that I have during the survivor phase. I'm not giving up. I'm not saying I'll never get there. I am cooperating with what recovery looks like. And that's patiently active. And again, it's really easy to get overwhelmed, to despair out of fear, to just want to pull back and do nothing. That would be passive. But to only cooperate at the pace and in the ways that are helpful, that's not passive, that's wise.
Yeah. Now, as a counselor, when a victim presents himself or herself, for your particular ministry of care, like, do you have a process in your mind in trying to put yourself in the place of the victim?
So if I'm in the helping role and after a significant event, somebody is reaching out. If I'm trying to gauge, are they more in the legitimate victim phase? Are they in the survivor phase? The question for me is, are they still in imminent danger? Do they need additional protection?
Okay.
So this may be a spouse who is the victim of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And just because they're not actively being beaten doesn't mean that they're safe. It may be that a safety plan is needed. There may still be some stalking. Do they understand that what happened to them when that happened may not have just been a sin, that it was a crime? That it wasn't just a Matthew 18, this was immoral, but it could be a Romans 13, that the civil authorities could have a role to play if they wanted to play that.
Yeah.
So in that early phase, I want to make sure that they are safe and that they are accessing all of the roles of protection that Scripture says are very legitimate. Once they've done that and they are in a spot that is safe, then we look at what does recovery look like. And there you're asking the question, what type of disruptions are you experiencing now because of what happened then? So if, again, a little bit of turn of phrase here. When people go, what is trauma?
Yeah.
Like we're kind of talking about that kind of subject. One of my kind of folksy Kentuckyisms for what is trauma. Trauma is when the then and there of a past experience supercharges the here and now of a current experience in such a way that it's difficult to respond to the here and now in its own terms. So classic example, almost stereotype. You have a war veteran who returns home from a battlefield. And they're back home, and let's say they're walking their dog next to a peaceful park. And as they're walking their dog, a car nearby backfires. It sounds like a bomb going off or a gun being fired. The then and there of the unsafe environment supercharges the here and now of peaceful park in a way that it is more difficult for them to respond to the here and now on its own terms. In that survivor phase, we're trying to offset as many of those types of impacts as we can. So part of that's just helping the person understand.
Yeah.
Because that veteran, they're going to feel crazy. Like, I know I'm in a park. I know I'm in a safe spot. I don't understand, but everything in me responded as if I was in imminent danger. Okay, well, part of just educating on what a flashback or a trigger response is. That being able to educate on what hypervigilance is. If you have somebody who's been through a traumatic experience that involved assault, very frequently when they sit in a room, they never want to sit with their back to the door.
I see.
Because there's this, I have to be on guard. And if there's something that I can't see that could get to me, it's like, okay, those are the experiences. That's the supercharged experience of after the trauma stress. I can't unwrite history. Like no counselor can do that. But we can help offset during the survivor phase those post-traumatic symptoms.
I know you use the word like sometimes you said victim, like that in some people's mind that's pejorative. That's like a label. It's like it's not a positive label and everything like that. It's just you want to cleanse your mind of that kind of thought that a victim is in a passive role. I think, would you say the same thing about post-traumatic stress? And then we get to that last word, disorder. It seems like to suggest that if you would just get yourself back in order, then the stress of what happened to you before would be gone. And, it seems like that very word disorder tends to color the whole idea like it's a flaw or something. And it's really just the the experience that a person can't let go of, correct?
So let me use a first-person testimony.
Okay.
Because sometimes this gets very theoretical. And so here is a trauma with post-traumatic stress in my own life. I was in the batting cage with my younger son. And very foolishly, I did not stay behind the yell screen.
Okay. Right.
He hit a baseball. We were in one of those cages where they could tell you the speed. The ball was traveling at 74 miles per hour as it hit the bridge of my nose from 35 feet away. For a season, I was a victim.
Yeah.
I was laying in the floor. My nose was broken. I was in an ambulance. I was on the way to the hospital. I was in need of care. There were things that needed to be done that I could not do for myself, and I was not being unduly passive to acknowledge that. I actually, one of the team moms was a nurse, and she was trying to give me care, and being a stubborn man, I was arguing with her, trying to convince her I was okay. And she could look at my face and know clearly I was not. Now, then, once my wife let me get back in the batting cage and throw batting practice again, it was disruptive. For those of our listeners who know baseball, like the ring of a BB core bat, the way that it would make my heart race and my ears ring and my face go numb, I wanted to run away. Like it was sending off threat alarms that I knew I was safe. I knew exactly what I needed to do. Just stay behind the L screen. But there was a time period where I was still surviving. I was learning, gaining the skills not to let the then and there of that experience supercharge this moment. Now, I don't think every dad has to be a coach, but for me, like I still had some basic moral responsibilities. I needed to be a good father. I needed to be a good husband. Nothing about going through a trauma meant I got to forego those experiences. Now, in this moment, this kind of takes us to the third stage. Like those are things that have been offset enough that as I talk about it, I'm stewarding that experience. I'm using that experience hopefully to be a source of encouragement and insight for our listeners of like, oh, you can get to the point that these things do not disrupt you, and you can use that experience to comfort others with the comfort that you have received, drawing on the language of 2 Corinthians 1:3-5.
Yeah. So now you can say how to get beyond what happened there. Right. And now that is like, I think that's the danger, I guess, as we're helping people, as believers, trying to help people. Personal experience in our life, we had a, family situation, premature birth, the child died. I don't think the healing process was allowed to progress so much in the father's case. He had somebody that sort of drove him he kept saying, get back up on the horse, get back up on the horse. And, the results of him doing that and entering back into his sort of legalistic frame of reference and in the performance mentality that he lived in, he got back up on the horse and he left his wife behind a little bit. And then he literally left his wife behind, and got into some moral sin because of it. And when we were doing the counseling in the separation, the lead pastor said, that he never really forgave God for taking away his son, that kind of thing. But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, as friends, like, because you mentioned in the session this morning about friendship is the beginning of helping and caring, and then more counseling happens. Like, when I heard that statement, I wanted to really just like tell him this is not the time for you to get up back on the horse, and I couldn't really convince him that he didn't need to enter into that progress, trying to reform himself and performing in that. When you see somebody, trying to accelerate their own recovery, is there something we should be doing there? How do we address that to somebody? Because ultimately it became a family disaster that we're still sort of dealing with all these years later.
Right. And so at one level, we don't get to tell other people how to live their life.
Okay.
And so we can't say, thou will slow down.
Okay.
Thou will get in touch with thine feelings.
Yeah.
At the same time, to say, just get back up on the horse.
Yeah.
Move on with life as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
That doesn't honor the magnitude of losing a child.
Yeah.
And especially when we have something that is traumatic like that. Trauma is a form of grief.
Yeah.
And grief doesn't have an acceleration button. To grieve as those who have hope does not necessarily mean to grieve fast. Grief is not a sprint. And so there may be some core responsibilities that man had.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a provider for your family, like there is a sense in which you need to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And, the impact on your family if you call in sick so many days that you get fired from your job.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be there's some basic responsibilities you may need to fulfill.
Yeah.
But as a church, how can we help you? Like, okay, your wife is talking to you. She's processing. What kinds of things are helpful for you? For men, it's not always verbally processing. Sometimes it is.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it that helps you process hard things?
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I'm much more of I need some space for things to settle. And so for me to get away, to walk my dog in like a park or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, a bit of a forest trail or something, being the country boy that I am,
Mm-hmm.
I like to gather my thoughts and not necessarily just share first draft thoughts with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not somebody who's real prone to initiate the hard conversation.
Okay.
And so that means I need to look at my friends and go, hey, you're not being intrusive if you ask me how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be less prone to tell you how I'm doing unless you ask. And if it's something obvious like losing a child in the situation like you describe, then hey, for a period of time, I want you to ask me about that.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to ask me how I'm doing at supporting my wife as we go through this together.
Mm-hmm.
We can't tell people you will not try to grieve fastly. You cannot do that. Like that's beyond our role in their life. But we can resist the tendency to artificially rush them, and we can give them every opportunity to move at a healthy pace.
I see. So how, I guess that's you have to develop that in terms of, in terms of being a friend. Like I always use this, this phrase that's in the Psalms. I'm probably yanking it out of context, but I use it a lot. It's like, when we're in a situation, I'm saying, when you're trying to rush somebody to make a decision or force them to apologize or something like that, and we're not giving a lot of space, I'm always saying gentleness is what will make the situation great. I'm probably, like I said, I think I'm probably yanking that, like we're very prone to do, yank something out of the scriptures. But I think that's like, how do I become when I when I have a victim, and I really want to get them to be a steward, I want them, and but I guess that's more outcome oriented. Like I shouldn't be thinking of how I'm going to get them to be a steward. I should really be thinking gentleness, soft answers, and even like stern kind of instruction can be given with a tender tongue, can't it?
Mm-hmm. I think it can, and this is where I think there's a real advantage to friendship. That as a counselor, and I've sat in that seat where you get to know a stranger from a set of intake forms forward. I don't have any baseline for what that person is like before the first conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to gauge everything about what would be helpful based on the data that I can get from a set of intake forms and whatever information they give me in that first session.
Mm-hmm.
As a friend, I do have a lot of history with you. And it's usually life that sets the pace. And so, like, if we go back to the friend that you were mentioning who lost the child.
Yeah.
Well, like there's that initial period where they're in the hospital, they're getting medical care, and like they are in need of care and protection. If that's not handled well medically, it can become life-threatening for the wife, and that's another loss. And there's that season. Then they get released. Well, initially, like it may just be like, you need to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know how like we can help you create the emotional bandwidth, that fulfilling your responsibilities, that you're able to go to work. That's what you can do. Then maybe he feels like, I think I'm at a decent spot, but my wife is still really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wife says, you need to be able to be a good husband. That being there for your wife. And so life is setting the pace at what needs to be done.
I see.
And in gentleness, I'm not setting the pace. I am helping you meet the demands that life requires. Helping you figure out, like if he says, look, we were going to book a vacation. I feel like we still need to go on vacation. As a friend, I may say, like, is vacation the most important thing? Like, is that going to be what serves your family best? It may be, but I can be an objective, gentle voice helping that gentleman think that through. What does your wife say about this? Does she feel heard in the decision? Is it... and so I think oftentimes when we're in that helping role, we want to be very confident that we know the pace and that we're setting that agenda right. Well, there's sometimes when life's just unfair.
Yeah.
And what life requires, it's like, man, that feels premature, but that is what is necessary in this moment. And as your friend, I'm going to be as supportive as I can be. And also, like, if life requires a bit more than you can give 100% to, there's sometimes as we're going through this that we do a B- job. And we're not the kind of person who would be okay with a B- job.
Yeah.
But that friend says, you gave 100%. It may not have been everything that you wanted it to be. But you were fully invested with everything that you had to give and your family had to receive. Even if it was disappointing, it was well done. Don't beat yourself up for that. That was limping in the direction of hope. And that's that gentleness aspect that you were appealing to where, so life sets the pace.
Yeah, I think we want to be there. We want to be I mean, we have a joke in my family that, they'll know when I've really reached full Christian maturity when I don't get agitated with what happens on the highway, So this is like, and it's something happened on the way to work this morning. I'm like, okay, I'm still in progress, that kind of thing. And, we treat ourselves like that. We want to give ourselves a lot of grace. And do you find people who are victims that they really have a hard time receiving the measure of grace that God has for them? Maybe I'm not phrasing that right, but you understand that question?
When trauma is associated with loss,
Yeah.
oftentimes somebody will feel like pain is the only thing I have left of my loved one, of the role I was in. And if I stop hurting, I feel like I am losing all that I have left of them.
I see. Okay.
And so, in grief proper, the number of people who cling to the pain of grief because it proves to them how much they loved their loved one.
Okay.
Like, if I'm not hurting, then I don't love them as much as I could or should. And so, there can be reasons that don't make really good logical sense. They make a bit of emotional sense where somebody is resistant to moving forward because there's something of significance that they have in that current role. We don't help them get out of it by saying, snap out of it, you're being unreasonable.
Yeah.
But asking them the kind of questions where they can put themselves into words.
Yeah.
Again, if this is that kind of grief to loss, do you feel like it honors your loved one to cling to that pain? Is that what they would want for you?
Wow.
Those are things where it can, we can help humanize that experience. And I'm not saying you're overreacting. I may be saying you're clinging to pain for unhealthy reasons. And it's still, it's up to you whether that is something that you're going to begin to release your grip on. If I am compassionate and understanding, if I am gentle, you are more likely to begin to trust this conversation enough that you would do that with me than if you would do that if we weren't talking.
Wow. Being grief, you talked last night in our church service about, anger being it's not always a negative emotion. God is angry with the wicked every day. And the Holy Spirit grieves, when people enter into, I believe he grieves over the lack of fellowship that he would have someone who's dived deep into, gross sin, that kind of thing. But I mean, could you, I think we both would agree that because we were created in the image of God, that God really has suffered the kind of trauma that every one of us have felt on all levels.
So Scripture says, Scripture doesn't say that we're not supposed to grieve. Yeah. Scripture says we should grieve with hope. So the emotion of grief is not off limits.
Yeah.
We grieve with a recognition that the ultimate problems caused by sin in the fall will be resolved. Now, again, if we think about how do you know when, if we're just using grief and the loss of a loved one as our more familiar prototype, how do you know when you're beginning to grieve well? Well, when grief is thick, you measure time backwards. It's been 3 days since they died. It's been 2 weeks since they died. It's been a month. Like your reference point for life is behind you when that loss happened. As you begin to grieve well, you begin to look ahead. And you begin to anticipate in a positive way Hey, I'll get to see my sister again in 2 weeks. I've got this thing that I'm looking forward to. Well, one of the things that when we're still in those early stages of recovering from trauma, life has a backwards orientation. There is a lady, she does a lot of work in the area of trauma. To my knowledge, she's not a Christian, but when she's talking about what is a sign that grief is running its course with something traumatic, I remember a phrase she used. It was in a quote from one of her clients. The client said, I began to realize that while I'll never forget my trauma, like it just won't be erased from my memory, it was no longer the most interesting thing that happened to me. And by interesting, I don't think they meant curious. They meant significant. And they had gotten to the point in their grieving what happened that the other parts of their life felt more interesting, more significant. Like the road in front of them was beginning to be appealing again.
Okay.
And so what does it look like to grieve a traumatic experience? Well, initially, it's like when we lose a loved one. We have that past orientation. That's not bad. That happens with significant events. But we want to move as we move to survivor and to steward, where the things that are in front of me. Again, we take that Philippians 3 where Paul says, forgetting the things that are behind. Paul did not erase from his memory the things that were behind him. Yeah. He tells us all the time about being shipwrecked and different things. Like he knew. But the things that he had been through, what was behind him was not more significant, was not more interesting, was not more captivating than what was in front of him. And so a healthy counseling approach, it doesn't have a timetable and go, you got 7 weeks, you got 7 months, you got 2 years to get to this point. But that is the direction that we're going. That is what we're aspiring to. And whatever challenges that we face, we want to be active with regards to mitigating those disruptions, learning to offset them, so that the things in front of us can begin to be more significant, more impactful, more interesting than the things behind us.
Yeah, you probably you've read the book maybe, A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis, and that's the famous story that when he was so caught up in the loss of Joy, he couldn't find her anywhere. And then when he sort of moved to a certain point, he saw her everywhere. I'm not quite remembering the phrase that way, but I'm interested in that, like what you're saying about forgetting, because, someone would say that you really haven't overcome like an abusive situation until you've totally forgiven and like forgotten. But we had, a few years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, we interviewed R.T. Kendall, who wrote Total Forgiveness. We interviewed him on the program. At that time, we used to take phone calls. It was a radio program, talk radio. It's fading into the sunset now. But someone called up, she had been through, very traumatic experience as a girl. And he just really kindly said, oh, you can never forget, and he said he encouraged her to ask the power to forgive again. Is that good counsel? Was that, I thought it was good counsel, but he was saying like, there's some things, people are saying you're never really over the whole thing until you've forgotten. And the idea, like you said, forgetting means that something doesn't come so significant in your life, but it's still there. You're not erasing the fact.
Right. So there's a author that I really enjoy on this subject. His name is Miroslav Volf.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book called The End of Memory. It is a theologically dense book. It's not an easy one to read, but he was a political prisoner of war. And in his book, he talks about how impactful that experience was. He talks about his interrogator names him Captain G. Had a name that started with G that was hard to pronounce, and so he just, for the ease of his readers, called it Captain G. He said, I'm a Christian. I'm really committed to my faith. And I don't know the exact number, so I'm going to pick 3. I don't know how I forget those 3 years of my life that I was in captivity.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says the end of memory, it's like he's using a philosophical term, end meaning purpose. Like, how do I remember redemptively something that was so painful and so disruptive? And if you can get through the density of the theology in the book, the practical moments are really beautiful. And that what you were just saying from R.T. Kendall, that you don't forget. You can't rip years of your life. I mean, that's one of the things that's often misunderstood about abuse. Like, people talk about abuse like it happens in moments.
No.
Like the 7 minutes of being screamed at and hit is what abuse was. No, it is the years of living in fear in between the various 7 minutes of being hit that is the lived experience of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you don't forget years of, that's called amnesia. That's not called forgiveness.
Yeah.
Now, you can remember in a way that is not fueled by bitterness. You can remember in a way that is not you being in the moment emotionally oppressed by the memory. You can remember in a way that you are available to care for other people as you get to a spot where, like, those things that you need to do to resolve the impact of that for you, survivor phase, that you are starting to care for others. And you find meaning and significance in being able to be for others, maybe what you had for yourself, or maybe what you wish you had had, but you can be for others.
And that, I think, speaks to that characteristic you're talking about, redemptive memory, even of a traumatic experience, is the essence of like what we would call stewardship. Because now you've taken that and it's a fact of life, but it is not the defining measure of your life, but you're using it, you know. Now, I know that some people, you know, have, you know, can take those experiences and create an identity that maybe is like over the top, and this is all I am. It's like they replay the trauma. They seem to have gotten over it, and you know, it's more a product of maybe a celebrity culture. You know, this is why we're putting you on the TV, is because you went through this experience, and they live in that, and they're not really a steward. They're more of a product kind of thing. They've taken their trauma and created a product out of it. But I think redemptive memory is like really the characteristic that we're after.
Right. And let's make sure we're clear for people what we don't mean by that. We don't mean finding the silver lining or having this sense of like, this is why I went through this.
Yeah.
It's one, this is not so sticky that when I remember it, it overwhelms me. That when it's useful, I can draw this out of my memory. I can use it to care for other people. When it's not useful, I can be the person that God called me to be. And again, I ask the listeners to listen with charity as I kind of use this as an illustration. I'm not critiquing something here. I'm just using it for an illustration that may be getting at what you were describing. Like, there were a group of parents who lost children to drunk drivers. And they created something. It was called MADD, M-A-D-D, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And in creating that, it's almost as if being against this issue that was undoubtedly traumatic. It kind of keeps it central to who I am. That, well, if that is one part of what they do, and they're still meaningfully involved in other parts of their life, that this is not the centerpiece. My only caution for folks like that is, in the name of seeing that memory redeemed, We don't want to keep the painful thing so central to our life that it unnecessarily echoes. That who is that person that you are?
Yeah.
That you are excited for what you get to do and be and care for others. That's not just in reaction to the hard thing. Absolutely, use the hard thing to be salt and light, not disparaging that in any way. Just the caution to what you were saying is making it so central that I still, even when I am years later, don't know how to tell you who I am without describing that to you.
Yeah, so we're talking good stewardship, salt and light, and that, the experiences can become something that don't define you.
Yeah, this is part of my story. It's not the totality of my story.
And that's where we want to lead people when they get into that. So, well, I think, we're going to wrap it up right now. We got a minute and a half. People can find things written by you at bradhambrick.com, right?
Yes, everything is there. And on this subject, I have a resource coming out in August called Growing After Trauma. That if somebody wanted to be able to walk with people, this isn't the only topic in that book, but how you effectively walk alongside of somebody. It's meant to be a resource to help people with that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so you have any, I'm a writer. You've written a lot of books. I'm just, do you have any process that you could share with someone who wants to get their things down on paper? I always tell them, write for themselves and don't worry about what other people think about it. What do you do? How do you do it?
For me, one of the phrases that has been really helpful when I write to explore. I don't write to explain.
That's very
If
good.
I give myself the freedom to explore what I'm wrestling with and not feel like this has to be the final draft, it gives me a lot more freedom through writing to figure out like what harmonizes with Scripture, what matches up with what I'm really thinking. And to me, it's a healthier way to write.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think, I appreciate your thing. And I've run out of time. I can't ask you how to fix the Baltimore Orioles pitching rotation because I know you're a pitching coach.
It's always next time.
I'm a long-time Orioles fan, and it's been 43 years since we've even been to the World Series. But anyway, I brought it to baseball just to help you out there a little bit or help myself out. Anyway, well, friends, this has been the Grace Hour Show. With me has been Brad Hambrick. I am Steve Andrulonis, one of the pastors here at Greater Grace. Thank you. Thank you so much for subscribing to the program wherever you do. And we appreciate, if this is you're new to our program, please subscribe and give us a great rating. And we're so thankful for the thousands who have subscribed. So join us again tomorrow at this time for the Grace Hour Show. God bless you all.